Occasionally, I like to take a break from using all the insanely good weapons and just do something dumb in Tarkov. Whether that's a silly challenge or handicap I place on myself, or just using a weapon that isn't popular by any means. Little things like this are how I stay interested in Tarkov when we're this deep into a single wipe cycle. And one weapon that I have been using for the last few days that has been honestly super fun to use, even if it's incredibly challenging sometimes, is the MP18, Tarkov's break action rifle. Technically, it falls under the shotgun category of weapons for some reason, and it really should be in its own class, but regardless, this weapon has been a blast to use for the last few times I've logged into Tarkov. When looking at its stats, it doesn't do anything spectacular. Below average ergonomics, higher than average recoil when fired, and you only get one shot before you need to reload. And the MOA isn't even good either, at 3.16, meaning there's a chance that you'll miss your shot even if you're dead accurate with your sights. There isn't much that can be done with the weapon either. You can swap out the wood furniture for polymer handguard and buttstock, and you can fit an optic onto the weapon. Now, your bad weapon of choice doesn't have to be the MP18, it can be any weapon that isn't considered good in the eyes of most. But Tarkov's bad weapons are sometimes the most fun way to engage with the game, especially this late into a wipe. If you couldn't put an optic on the MP18 and you had to solely use the iron sights, then this truly would be the worst weapon. Even the TAWs can be fitted with optics, but since you can put ranged optics on this gun, and it fires a very powerful round, 7.62 by 54R, that means this gun, which is available at Jaeger 1 for just over 16k rubles, can be extremely effective as a cheap backup weapon when paired with something like an SMG. And the variety of optics that can be fitted onto the weapon is no slouch either. Granted, there are some that can't go on the gun like the 2.5x prism scope, but it still has a solid choice of selected range options. There is no suppressor for the MP18, but hey, maybe one day. Hey, if the Vepr Hunter can get one, then so can this. It would be hilarious if it got one, just because then this gun would most likely have 0 ergo, and you try to use a ranged optic on it, ugh, that would be so miserable, but funny at the same time. And the break action forces you to only shoot once before you must go through a fairly lengthy procedure of reloading. And with that comes adapting your playstyle to the weapon itself. If you can only shoot once, reposition after each time you fire. You'll always be loud, and the map will become very aware of your presence, so you need to stay on your toes and hop to different locations across the map. And this mentality should be applied anytime you're using a weapon that has obvious downsides and weaknesses. There is something overtly satisfying about using bad weapons in shooters, and especially Tarkov. I find myself getting less frustrated with the current state of the game because I'm so much more focused on myself, what I need to do to be successful. And even when I do die, I always chalk it up to me making a mistake rather than Tarkov going out of its way to screw me over in some manner. And when things go right, you're making good plays, your positioning is fantastic, and you can land a clean kill with a bad weapon, the rewards are even more gratifying because you had the cards stacked against you. Any gun can kill anyone if you play correctly. It's not easy adjusting to how you engage with the game when you're maybe so used to one style or you're very accustomed to running the best of the best. But when you take a step back and look at things in Tarkov from a bird's eye view, it's easier to kind of look at a given situation and figure out the best course of action. You won't always get it right, and sometimes you will still lose even when you do everything in your power to be in an advantageous position. But that happens even when you're running level 5 armors and modded guns. So at the very least, the sting of dying is reduced somewhat when you have a P.A.K.A. and MP18 in your hands. You know there's a huge likelihood of that gear coming back to you, so you can just run it again and try to shoot for the stars once more. It's also fun to just run bad guns and gear because you're fragile. You can't take as much damage as you previously could with a level 4 or 5 armor. The P.A.K.A. can only stomach so much before it gives out and you die to a single thorax shot. But that's just a gentle reminder to play like your life matters. Even over 180 days into a wipe, it's good to remind yourself that your life is important and dying recklessly might create some bad habits. So playing when even a scav can 2-tap you in the chest means that you're gonna, in most situations, make better decisions about how you navigate the map and what fights you want to pick. You won't be as reckless about just running around the map towards the sounds of gunfire, but instead you might lurk around and try to third party an already going on fight where you can clean up and take all the loot for yourselves. And while you can certainly play this way with good gear, it makes more sense when you're using bad guns. Again, it only takes one bullet, and this goes both ways. Bad guns are the cornerstone for early game Tarkov. That's when they're most utilized, and then eventually they get dropped off. But when utilized correctly late game, they can, just as if not, be more enjoyable because you're at a disadvantage and can overcome the odds stacked against you. And that reward is always more exhilarating when it comes from some semblance of a struggle. Again, like early game. But, however you enjoy late game Tarkov is up to you. But I encourage you to try and maybe add some layers of difficulty to spice up the gameplay loop. You'll focus more on what you're doing, the deaths hurt less, and you might just get a laugh out of it too. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments below and subscribe for more videos about ways to cure Tarkov boredom. I hope to see you in future ones.